Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how people manage to find their footing when the ground beneath them is literally shaking? You know, how human beings build that deep, unshakable resilience that lets them push through massive crises. Well, today we're unpacking exactly that. We're looking at a meticulously curated collection of 10 ancient texts in our journey, Bible Verses That Empower, a Journey of Resilience. Whether you grew up hearing these words or you're seeing them for the very first time, we're going to break down how these specific phrases function as, honestly, incredible tools for building human resilience. I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this because by visualizing these ancient words, we can unlock some deeply relevant psychological frameworks that apply right to our modern lives.
Okay, let's dive right into this master blueprint. Now, instead of just reading you a random list of 10 quotes, we've actually systematically categorized these verses by their core themes and, more importantly, by the target emotion they evoke. Just take a look at that right column. Peace, courage, strength, hope. See, we're categorizing these verses by their psychological utility. The goal is to show you exactly how these texts target specific emotions when you're right in the thick of a challenge. Need peace? Well, there's a framework for that. Need courage? That's a totally different framework. What this table really shows us is that empowerment isn't just one blanket feeling, right? It's a dynamic, versatile tool set. To make this super efficient, here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll start with the power of ancient words, move into finding peace and stillness, then confronting battles and fear, building unbreakable endurance, and finally, we'll wrap up with the promise of tomorrow.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, The Power of Ancient Words, a Legacy of Endurance. And moving right along to Section 2, Finding Peace in Stillness. Here's why true empowerment actually often starts by doing absolutely nothing.
But before we get into the specific mechanics of that, we really need to establish exactly what we're looking at here. Guys, these aren't just historical phrases that happen to sound nice. They are meticulously crafted tools for empowerment, and they're highly relevant to the crises we face today. Just look at the sheer directness of this quote. Psalm 46, verse 10, "Be still and know that I am God." Notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say figure it out or work harder. Look at the active verb here, be still. It's literally a command to stop. It requires this intentional pausing of all your own frantic efforts, forcing you to recognize that there's a power much greater than whatever is causing your current panic. So, the crucial takeaway right here, surrender control. That is the exact psychological mechanism that allows you to finally find your footing in a crisis. By consciously deciding to drop the illusion that you can control everything, because, let's face it, we can't, you immediately lower your anxiety. You end up creating the mental space you actually need to survive the storm.
Now watch how this next verse takes that exact same concept and completely amplifies it. Exodus 14:14. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Once again, we see that clear instruction to be still. But now there's a massive promise attached to it. It's the promise that doing nothing actually allows a higher power to step in and take over the act of fighting for you. It's essentially telling you that your stillness is absolutely not a weakness. Actually, scratch that. Your stillness is the prerequisite for divine intervention.
And that brings us to the final verse in our stillness category, Psalm 46, verse 5. God is within her, she will not fall. Notice the shift here? We've moved from the external fighting we saw in the previous verse to this unshakable internal stability, within her. This perfectly reinforces why this entire section on stillness is absolutely crucial for your own foundation. Once that stillness is internalized, falling literally becomes impossible, regardless of how hard the wind is blowing outside.
Up next is Section 3, Confronting Battles and Fear. This is all about actively facing external threats.
Take a look at 2 Chronicles 20:15. The battle is not yours, but God's. Now what's really fascinating about this verse is the total redirection of responsibility. It definitely doesn't deny that there's a battle happening, right? The conflict is very real. But it fundamentally changes your relationship to that conflict. It takes the ultimate crushing weight of the outcome and lifts it entirely off human shoulders.
So, what does this actually mean for you today? Well, it means you have to reframe the conflict. The key takeaway for us is to stop carrying the burden of the battle entirely on our own. You know, you can show up, you can do your part for sure, but you do not have to carry the existential dread of the final result. Reframing the conflict like this is an incredible way to preserve your vital mental energy.
And when you reframe the conflict that way, you can finally process fear properly. Isaiah 41:10 hits the nail on the head here. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I really want you to focus on that active opening command, fear thou not. It connects the absence of fear directly to the assurance of a divine presence. Knowing that you are not standing alone, that is presented here as the ultimate antidote to being dismayed or completely overwhelmed by your circumstances.
All right, moving into section 4, building unbreakable endurance. This is where we talk about playing the long game.
This brings us to one of the most famous verses out there on endurance, Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. Now, the secret sauce of this verse is actually buried right at the end in the word strengtheneth. It implies a continuous, active, ongoing mechanism of empowerment. We're not talking about a one-time injection of energy here. It is a sustainable, flowing source of strength that allows you to do all things, no matter how long they take.
Let's see how this builds into an actual practical process in Isaiah 40:31. We've broken this text down into a visual step-by-step progression for you. Step 1, wait upon the Lord. Step 2, renew your strength. And step 3, mount up with wings as eagles. It's just an incredible progression. Waiting, which usually feels so passive, literally transforms into soaring. The endurance doesn't just help you merely survive the situation, it actually elevates you above it entirely. It's like an eagle taking flight above a storm.
So how do we know this kind of endurance actually pays off? Well, check out the chronological perspective in Psalm 37, verse 25. I have been young and now am old, yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken. This is so incredibly powerful because it relies on long-term observation. The speaker is looking back over an entire lifetime of evidence to prove the absolute reliability of divine support. When you're dead tired, leaning on that proven track record of the past is exactly what gives you the endurance to just keep walking.
And finally, Section 5, the promise of tomorrow, looking forward to ultimate joy.
Jeremiah 29:11 is really the cornerstone of this future focus. For I know the plans I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. I really want to emphasize the words prosper and not to harm. See, this isn't just some vague wish for a decent future. This is a highly specific promise that anchors a person's hope in an inherently positive outcome. It definitively states that the ultimate plan is designed for your benefit, not your destruction.
And focusing on that specific, positive outcome, that serves as the ultimate mechanism of hope. Because hope isn't just a nice, warm feeling. It is highly functional. When you truly believe that the future holds prosperity and not harm, that belief becomes the literal fuel you need to survive your current temporary struggles. You can endure almost anything today if you're absolutely certain about tomorrow.
And this brilliantly illustrates the tension we find in Psalm 30, verse 5. Notice the comparison we've set up here. On one side, weeping may endure for a night. On the flip side, joy cometh in the morning. This acknowledges that, yeah, the pain is real, the weeping does endure, the night is dark. But it immediately contrasts the temporary, fleeting nature of nighttime sorrow with the absolute, inevitable relief of morning joy. The morning always comes, guys. Joy is the ultimate conclusion to this whole journey of resilience.
We've traveled all the way from stillness, pushed through fear, built up our endurance, and anchored ourselves in hope. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. Which of these verses will you carry into your next battle? Don't just leave this information sitting here on the screen. Pick the tool that targets exactly what you're feeling right now and actively apply this ancient journey of resilience to your own life today.